Good evening, everyone. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Um, it's a pleasure to welcome you to our workshop. Thank you all for being here today. Es un placer darles la bienvenida a nuestro workshop. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos el día de hoy. Well, the main objective of this workshop is to explore the writing difficulties that students face at the A1 level of English. El objetivo principal de este espacio es analizar las dificultades en la escritura que presentan los estudiantes en el nivel A1 de inglés. So through this session, we aim to learn from the experience of our guest speaker how to effectively address uh, these challenges in the classroom. A través de esta sesión, buscamos aprender de la experiencia, desde la experiencia de nuestro ponente, cómo afrontar estas situaciones dentro del aula. We are especially interested in understanding what strategies, activities, and methodologies can be implemented to support beginners learners in developing their writing skills. Estamos especialmente interesados en comprender qué estrategias, qué actividades y metodologías podemos implementar para apoyar a los estudiantes en el desarrollo de esta habilidad. This workshop is also an opportunity for us as future educators to reflect on our teaching practices and better understand the needs of students at early stages of language learning. Este workshop también representa una oportunidad para que nosotros como futuros docentes o docentes en formación reflexionemos sobre nuestras prácticas pedagógicas y comprendamos mejor las necesidades de los estudiantes en las etapas iniciales del aprendizaje. This workshop has been organized by Group 10, composed of. El espacio ha sido organizado por el grupo número 10, conformado por el compañero Daniel Felipe García Rojas, Lady Caterine Bonilla Castro, Luis Daniel Utria Carreazo, Natalia Martínez Leiva, and me, Ángel Vallejo Rojas. Now I would like to briefly introduce the problem that we select as the basis of this workshop. Ahora me gustaría presentar brevemente la problemática que seleccionamos como base para la realización de este workshop. As a summary, we can say that in general terms, many A1 level students have difficulties writing in English, especially when producing basic words and simple sentences. De manera general, muchos estudiantes de nivel A1 presentan dificultades al escribir en inglés, especialmente al producir palabras básicas y oraciones simples. As a teaching context, in our teaching context, this situation is commonly observed in primary school classrooms where students are beginners and are just starting to develop their vocabulary and writing skills. En nuestro contexto de enseñanza, esta situación se observa comúnmente en aulas de primaria, donde los estudiantes son principiantes y apenas están desarrollando sus habilidades, su vocabulario y sobre todo en este caso las habilidades de escritura. And additionally, factors such as large class sizes and limited time for practice can make it more difficult for students to improve their writing. Además, factores como el tamaño de los grupos, el poco tiempo para las prácticas hacen más difícil que los estudiantes puedan llegar a mejorar su escritura. The issue is, sorry, when we look at the problem more closely, we can see that many students struggle to write correctly, need constant support, and often feel unsure about how to form simple sentences. Al analizar más a fondo la problemática, vemos que muchos estudiantes tienen dificultades para escribir correctamente y algunos necesitan un poco más de apoyo constante y no saben con claridad cómo formar oraciones simples. Possible causes. As a possible causes of this issue include limited vocabulary, lack of practice, and in some cases, feelings of insecurity or fear of making mistakes. Entre las posibles causas contamos con el vocabulario limitado, la falta de la práctica y en algunos casos la inseguridad o el miedo a equivocarse. As educational consequences, finally, we can say that this situation can have important consequences in the learning process. Since students may feel frustrated, can lose confidence and have difficulties expressing their ideas in English. Finalmente, esta situación puede traer consecuencias importantes en el proceso del aprendizaje, ya que los estudiantes pueden sentirse frustrados, pueden perder la confianza y tener dificultades para expresar sus ideas en inglés. So now, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. Ahora es un honor para mí presentar a nuestro ponente invitado. Today we are honored to have César Augusto Miranda with us. He holds a bachelor's degree in foreign languages from Universidad Santiago de Cali. He is currently pursuing a master's degree, and he has 18 years of teaching experience, including eight years in public education. El día de hoy contamos con la presencia del profesor César Augusto Miranda. Él es licenciado en lenguas extranjeras, es egresado de la Universidad Santiago de Cali, quien actualmente se encuentra cursando una maestría y cuenta con 18 años de experiencia en la enseñanza, incluyendo 8 años en el sector de la educación pública. His extensive experience in the field of education makes him an excellent guide to help us better understand the challenges of teaching writing at the A1 level. Su amplia trayectoria en el ámbito educativo lo convierten en un referente importante para nosotros para comprender mejor el resto de la enseñanza, los retos de la enseñanza de la escritura en niveles iniciales. So please join me in welcoming our professor César Augusto. Les pedimos que nos acompañe a darle la bienvenida a nuestro profesor César Augusto. Professor, we are ready to listen to you.
Hi, nice to meet you and thanks for inviting me. Muchísimas gracias por invitarme.
Teacher, for being here. Now, I would like that you can tell us some of your experience and tell us how we can resolve or resolve this challenge that we have right now with these students about grading in the level A1.
Okay. You already talked about some of the important aspects that we need to take into account. Maybe we gotta focus, as teachers, we gotta focus on 3 different aspects that I would like you to take into account. Number 1, when we talk about levels A1, sometimes our main mistake is that we all think that A1 is like the same level for everybody, so everybody learns at the same way. And sometimes we forget their ages. Ages is also another important factor, the fact that kids need to, or teachers need to focus on teaching. For example, you can have an A1 level for elementary kids, you can have A1 level for teenagers, and you can have A1 level for adults. it's the same level, but it's not the same way for teaching. So you gotta teach differently depending on their ages too. So according to their ages, also the strategies work. Second, vocabulary. It also depends on what you want to teach. Vocabulary by itself, it's not useful, but if you have like an order, like for example, if vocabulary is part of your goal, then vocabulary is important. If vocabulary is it's just a list of words and you don't know what to do with those words, then it's senseless. And number three, it's very important to focus on the context. Why? Because it's not the same if you teach English to a kid, for example, from Medellin, and if why? Because their environment, because their context is totally different. So those three aspects are very important when you want to teach somebody: age, vocabulary, and context.
Okay, teacher. So it is mean that in the if we are talking right now in our problem is with the kids that they are in 4 or 5 grade to elementary school, and they are between 9 and 11 years old. How we can manage these two first aspects?
Okay, let's think of what they like. One is anything they like. Now, let's have like something that I use a lot is like the step-by-step formula, which is like I need to think of my main goal, which is my objective, which is what is exactly what I need they do. Once I know what they really do, then I need to start identifying what they need to understand before doing this. In this case, they need to write. Write what? Write about what? So I need to ask some questions about what they really need. One example. Let's write about um, an example. They need to write their favorite sports. They need to describe their sports, right? This is an example. If they need to write or describe their favorite sport, then I have one topic, sports. Now, what do I need to know if I want to describe sports? Then I come. What do I need? They need to know sports. They need to know adjectives. They need to know at least one verb, the verb to be, only that one. Now, I already have this order. What kind of vocabulary I'm going to use? Sports. Okay, I'm going to use the common sports. Am I going to use the sports they like? Am I going to use sports only from Colombia or from our town? Or am I going to use sports that are played in different countries that are not played here? So I need to specify with what kind of vocabulary I'm going to use with them. Then I'm going to start thinking of, for example, how to use the adjectives. What kind of adjectives am I going to need to describe sports? For example, um, fast, yes. Happy, I don't know if happy is a good word to describe sport. Um, this kind of vocabulary. Now we can, well, for example, in the case of kids, they can say what they like. So, well, sorry, they can compare the two languages. In the case of kids, it's very common to see how they compare both languages, Spanish and English. So in their case, specifically those cases, um, use it as an advantage. If you say these words in Spanish in this order, then what is the order in English? If it's necessary to switch some words, then you explain how to switch them. For kids, for example, it's not very important to use technical words. For example, in my case, when I work with kids, I don't use the words noun, adjective, verb. No, I prefer to use, for example, descriptions, actions, people, colors. These kind of things make easier and understandable the explanations. So if I want that a students write, then my student writes, for example, soccer is very entertaining. Then soccer is very entertaining. I need these four kind of words. Soccer is a sport, so they already need to know sports. Is the verb to be, they already need to know how to use the verb to be. Very is an adverb, so they need to know how to use the word very, which is not difficult actually. And entertaining is an adjective. I need to know these four categories before teaching them how to write. So it's like the step by step.
That's great, teacher. And very important what you are saying us. But there are something important when you're starting to talk and you say, well, the first thing that I need to check or understand is what is the needs that have my students. And that is part about the context that you talk that was the third aspect that we needed. So I would like that you introduce us or tell us more about that.
About the context, well, it's just a context. I mean, for example, as a teacher in a urban area, we know that most kids know lots of things. At least, maybe kids do not have a phone, but they do know what a phone is. Maybe kids do not have a big television set, but they do know what it is. If you work, for example, in a rural area, what are the most common actions they have? It's more about mm, I mean, schools are smaller, ages are different in one classroom. Um, the actions they use more often are different to the actions they use, for example, in the urban area. For example, kids in urban area use a lot of play video games, ride bikes. What else? Like maybe watch television, dancing. If you talk to kids in the rural area, the most common actions for them in the context is more like working, like planting, like what else? Like maybe feeding,
Go to the
because
mercado.
most kids. Sorry.
Go ahead, teacher.
Okay, now, yeah, it's like it depends on what the kids do. So, for example, if you talk to kids from the countryside, and their most common activities are related to the garden, to a farm. So we can use that in an advantage. Kids can play with those words because it's what they know, what they do every day. So just tell them how can they express those ideas, how can they express about their lives in their language they are learning, in this case English, because it's something that they already know. If you teach a kid something that they do not know because it's not their area, or it's not like their life, then they have to think twice. They have to think of what the other person does and how to express that in English. But if you teach a kid something that they already know, the only thing they have to do is just to translate it.
True. I going
Okay,
to
give me a second, lady. Okay, I need to tell about something. Guys, please, if you have question, you can to raise your hand or write in our chat. And before of this meeting, we can to read this question for the teacher. Okay, it's very important that your participation here. Okay, ready, lady, you can continue.
thank you. No, Natalia, I was just ready for say that we have other partner in our group. Daniel, are you here? You have some question and ready for the teacher, so you can say to him.
Yes, of course, I'm here. I'm going to ask some questions, teacher. Can I ask you the first one? Right, I'm going to ask only one.
Go ahead, Tanit.
Okay. What are the main difficulties A1 students face in writing?
The main difficulties A1 students face in writing?
Yes, sure, teacher. I
Good.
want to know.
Basically that they still think of their L1. I mean, most of them think in Spanish before they want to write something. So you always hear kids or everybody in general, actually, this is like very normal.
Okay,
You can hear people arguing about why English is written in a very different way than Spanish. For example, in Spanish, if you want to say MA, that's ma, and it's always ma, and it doesn't matter the word you are writing in. But in English, you cannot say that MA sounds ma because it also depends on the whole word. So for many people who are in an A1 level, it's a bit difficult for them to stop thinking in Spanish before starting writing in English. So I think, especially kids, they say, mm, it's a very common word. For example, they say beautiful because that's how they see it. So I think one of the difficulties is to really identify how to or to stop thinking in their Spanish language before starting understanding that English is literally a different language.
Okay, teacher, thank you for this. And well, we have a little question by Mauricio. What do you think about using Spanish for teaching kids in A1 level?
Actually, it depends on the teacher and it depends on the methodology. If you think it's very necessary to use it, go ahead. Everything that helps kids to learn is welcome. If you think Spanish is not necessary to teach English to kids, don't use it because you know how to use English as a second language. Um, it might be used or not depending on the methodology you use, and if it works for you, perfect. If not, you can use Spanish too. For example, I use both. Sometimes I just speak in English in the class and the kids understand. Sometimes it's very important to use some expressions in Spanish because the kids also need to know to understand specifically what you are teaching them. So everything is welcome. Actually, there is not a rule to teach English. There is not a rule to teach anything. It's just depending on the case, depending on the context, depending on the groups. You can even have, for example, in my case, I work with sixth graders, and in my school we have three sixth grades. But every group is totally different to the other. So it can be the same class. Some things have to be changed. You need to change some methodologies in the class because for one group it works perfectly, but for another group it does not work. So everything you use that you think is important in the class, welcome.
And I think that part of these things is that we can do the own reflection, like you say, everything is different. How I can do now with this class that I know them better, or maybe know this kid that I know that he have other needs or have other styles to learning. So you are adapting depending how you are doing your classes. I have something important to say is that um, one of the main challenge I will say, and I am talking about my practice and nowadays with the kids and even with the beginners or the little kids for elementary is how can we have them focused and motivated in our class. How we can do it? Because sometimes it's a big challenge. They get distracted so easily.
The problem is that kids are always thinking of different things at the same time. How? To be honest, I don't know how, but one of the things I normally use is like to talk to them, to give them some space to be informal. If they want to know about you, you can tell them some things about you too. They want to feel more comfortable to you, to tell you things. And when they feel comfortable with you, they feel comfortable with the class, and they feel comfortable participating. Um, it's very important. Like to have moments for everything. You can have moments to be serious, to be in silent, to be focused on what you're telling them, but it's also important to have moments where they can talk, where they can stand up, where they can do different kind of activities. So if they have moments for different things, not only writing, but also listening, but also moving, um, all of them learn better.
Okay, teacher. Here we have other question for you. Or give me a second. Our partner Hillary. She asked you what skill, listening, speaking, writing, should be prioritized at this level and why?
You can use all of them. I mean, one is not more important than another one. All of them are important actually. Maybe if we talk about schools, actually what school want is you need to focus more on reading and writing because at the end of their career they will take a test, like la prueba saber or el ICFES. So in school they tell you that you need to focus on reading and writing, but actually in real life all of them are important because you need to read, you need to write, you need to listen, you need to speak. So everything is really important. One is more important than another one? I don't think so. You can do activities of everything together, and kids will understand more. And if you ask me as a personal experience, kids are learning or are using a lot of media. They they watch lots of videos. They use websites. They use um, yeah, like social media. And when they watch a lot of these kind of things, they are international and for example, just a simple example, TikTok. Most of their songs are in other languages. Most songs are in Spanish, but there are many songs that are in other languages. If they have the possibility to dance or to have like this kind of trends in English, and you have the possibility to use one of those trends to teach them, then you are working on listening and speaking. So everything is welcome. That's what I say. Everything works if you know how to use it.
Okay, teacher, thank you. And other question is, in your experience, how can teachers balance the need to correct the students' mistakes while also keeping them motivated to write?
Do not correct every mistake. Actually, mistakes are also important. And if you want to correct a mistake, you need to find different ways to correct them. Because when you tell, for example, um, kids have a different mind. So some years ago, if you told them like this one is wrong, this one is wrong, this one is wrong, this one is wrong, that is not motivation for anybody. So nowadays, we are obligated to change our speech. So instead of telling a kid this one is wrong, we need to tell them something like, you need to correct here. You can do better this one. You are doing it great, but you need to improve this part too. So if we change our speech, kids feel motivated to change their mind of learning too.
Yes, of course, teachers, thank you for this. And in other question that we have here, and I believe that is the end. Considering large class sizes and limited time, what practical strategies would you recommend to support writing practice in the classroom?
Mm, maybe I would say that start identifying the kids who have more abilities for the language than the others. And you can use those kids as helpers. So if you see, for example, that this student understands easily what you are teaching them, and you see that, for example, this kid does not understand a lot, so you can put them to work together. And then this kid who understands better is going to help the kid who does not understand a lot. And both together will learn more. Actually, sometimes we do not learn when we are studying. We learn more when we are teaching.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have other from Gabriel. He say, what strategies would you recommend for teaching English in large classes in an online environment? I have found it more difficult to keep a student's attention in an online environment than in a traditional classroom setting.
I think the problem with the online environment is like, unfortunately, many teachers want to teach the same way online as in a traditional classroom. If you are teaching online, then your strategies must be different too. You need to use lots of technical and technological strategies too. And actually, there are lots of information, there are lots of websites that you can use to teach online. If you change your mind into the technology, then maybe the attention of the students will be kept differently.
Well, I don't know if anybody else has some question. For now, if maybe sometime somebody needs to write, I just want to say thank you for all the your suggestions and all the strategies. I think that's really important with all the like a conclusion the of the things that you are saying to us is that we obviously have to be focused what is our objective during the class, what we want to what is the point of the main objective that we have with the students. But more than that, we have to check what is our context, and based on that we can find better strategies or the better way to teaching, because like you told us from the beginning, there are different students, they're different, can be teenagers, adults, or kids. All of them learn of different ways, and but know also that uh, it is important to know and be focused in the context that they have, and that way will be more easy, because if we are inside of his context, they will be more comfortable for learn. Something else that you want to say, teacher, like a conclusion of this meeting?
Don't give up. To be honest, you won't learn everything in university, but you will learn like the most important, like bases. Your real experience will be when you are in front of a class, when you have your own kids, and when you will um, plan everything, especially for the kids you are working for. This is a very beautiful experience. Actually, I love teaching. It's challenge, yes, it's not easy, but it's actually very beautiful. So don't give up. We need lots of teachers in the world, and keep going. You can do it great.
Of course, Gabriel, we don't have any problem with that. We can share. Teacher, thank you for motivate us even with your words because I think that sometimes when we are in the practical part, it's a little difficult and challenges for us. See many things that maybe in the theory we don't know, and we are just there in a classroom, try to use all the things, the knowledge that we have, but like you say, if the experience that starting to like modeling us and how we can add, how we can do, and what strategies is better. And like you say, or you was telling us, um, everything if it's works is good for us. Or I am not using your same words, but it is means that if it's something that works, we can use it. So thank you. I know the experience to work. I have seen in your um, work and how you work with the children. So I really know, and I feel just motivated to see you for try to improve all my strategies and everything for be a better teacher. And yeah, guys, all of you, like say the teacher, this world needs a lot of teachers.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Professor, and your valuable contribution and for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. And your insights will definitely help us in our development as future teachers. And we would also like to thank all the participants for joining us today and for being a part of this workshop. We hope this session has been useful and meaningful for your learning process and that the ideas shared today can be applied in your future teaching practice. Thank you once again for your time and participation. So with this, conclude our workshop. Have a great night.
Thank you, Angel. I just want to say two things that maybe the teacher can see it, but Hilary Valentina say this is a beautiful conclusion, teacher Cesar, and Gabriel even say thank you very much for this workshop. I didn't get there on time. I would like to. I would have liked to be here from the beginning. And no, nothing else. Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you, and thank you, teacher Cesar.
Thanks for inviting me. It
Thank
was a
you,
pleasure to meet
everyone.
you.
Thank you, teacher. It was a pleasure.
Likewise.
Thank you, guys.